Welcome to On and Off the Mic with Mike Corey.
Toronto's own Dan Shulman has been a sportscaster I've always enjoyed listening to for so many years. From his work on Sunday Night Baseball, the NBA, and college basketball, I had to inquire about how many Duke and UNC games he's done. He'll offer some thoughts on that there. Plus, he just has a great perspective on it all, working in the field he loves, spending time with his family, and much more. You'll hear some really good stuff from one of ESPN's best. All right, so you're up in Toronto right now, Dan, right? I mean, how long have you've lived there your whole life, correct?
Yes, yeah, born and raised in Toronto. The only time I didn't live in Toronto, the 4 years I was in college in London, Ontario at Western University, and for about a year when I worked in a city, Barrie, Ontario, about 50 miles north of Toronto. But otherwise, I've always been right here in the six, as they call it now. Nobody called it that when I was a kid, of course, but I'm Toronto born and raised, and probably lived my whole life here.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the Blue Jays is the home game for you. Everybody's kind of got the home game, home city. So that's awesome. Is there what are some of the biggest differences, I guess? I know it's not that far away, but people think, oh, Canada. I mean, what's the biggest things that you've experienced, I guess, that maybe other people don't?
But you mean the differences between Canada and the U.S.?
Yeah, just some of the major stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly things that, like friends of mine from ESPN, if they come up to do a Raptor game or a Blue Jay game, they point out to me. I mean, they all seem normal to me, but, obviously our money is a different color, and Americans find that endlessly amusing. And we have coins for $1. We have loonies and toonies. We don't have, we used to have dollar bills and $2 bills. Those are long, long gone, many, many years by now. We have coins. And I mean, it's a bilingual country. We have two official languages, English and French. So you see French on everything. But I mean, this is my home. This is what I grew up with. So it seems normal to me. And I don't notice that stuff. But all of my buddies who work for ESPN seem to find Canada endlessly amusing.
That's crazy. And I know we talked, of course, it was a long time ago. We share some mutual friends and stuff. The things that I thought, that I know you've, come to realize, and we all have, is how much this job and how much our, life and travel, it takes out of you. Right. I mean, I know you've been doing so much for so long. Now that you've kind of dialed it back a little bit, what has that been like, I guess, in terms of how much you've been on the road and you've done throughout your career?
Yeah, it is a challenge, and I don't want anybody to think this is coming across as a complaint, because it's not. I love my job, and I'm blessed to have been able to have been, to do my job for the last 24, 25 years. But, we've all got family, and you miss things. So I missed a lot of my boys' games growing up and that sort of thing. I used to be on the road, and the way I always counted a day on the road was, did I sleep in a hotel that night? So I used to spend about 180 nights a year on the road. And back in the day for ESPN, when I was doing the most I've ever done, I was doing the Sunday night radio baseball, which was also Saturdays and pennant races and playoffs. And I was doing a Wednesday TV game, and I was doing some NBA, and I was doing college basketball, which I'm still doing. So, and I don't think I could physically. I don't think I could do it at this age. I'm 50. It's not like I'm 52. It's not like I'm old, I don't think. But it's easier to do it when you're 32 than when you're 52. And it's one of those things where it just kind of becomes second nature. You're used to living in a hotel. You're used to being in an airport all the time. And you come home for 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever it is, and you try to immerse yourself in your family life as much as you can, but there's always another game. So, a couple of years ago, I decided I kind of needed to take a step back and just make some changes. So I'm still doing college for ESPN, a little bit of baseball, and I do the playoffs on radio. And I'm doing kind of a smallish package of Blue Jay games, mostly home games. This is my hometown team, and I started off with the Blue Jays back in the 90s. But, it's a different way of life. I've never held a 9-to-5 job in my life. I don't think I could hold a Monday to Friday 9-to-5 job. I think that would just, just mess with my body clock. I'm used to being up early, being up late, running to an airport and all that. But I'll tell you, the last couple of years when I've been home more than I've been ever before, I have really enjoyed it.
No, it's great. I'm with you. There's no way I can do a 9-to-5 either. But when I was talking to somebody about this, you don't want to be on the road all the time either. But you also probably, you don't want to be home all the time either. But there's obviously a balance, and I just kind of credit you for for doing that. And I think we're all starting to do that a little bit more now, recognizing how much, we want to be a part of our family and being with everybody and not being on the road every single second of the day, because it does take a lot out of you.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and again, I've been so blessed, but at the end of the day, whenever my time is up, I don't think anybody's going to say to me, "Hey, how many years did you do Sunday night baseball?" I'd really like my kids to be there with me. So, it's all good, and I love everything that I do. There's really not a day where I say, "Man, I wish I didn't have to do this game," or "Man, I don't want to prepare for this game," or I think we all get a little airport weary, and that's totally natural. People who don't travel, I don't think know what traveling constantly is like. I've got some buddies, and they'll say, we went on a vacation to visit some family in California, and I came home and I couldn't sleep for 5 days. I couldn't get my body clock right for 5 days. And I'm like, dude, I'll go to LA, come back, and then go to Chicago, come back, and then go to Dallas, and you haven't done anything. We're used to doing it, for a night or two. And but it's fun. We like a couple of years, and every now and again it's an adventure. Like a couple of years ago, Billis and I did the Armed Forces game that we do that I haven't done it the last couple of years, but we used to do the Armed Forces game to launch every basketball season, and we did it at Pearl Harbor. We did it near Pearl Harbor. We were in Hawaii, and then I'm mixing it up with Maui. I'm sorry. We did the Maui Invitational, and then there was that Phil Knight, the Nike tournament up in Portland that year, where they had so many great teams. So they had Billis and I do games in Maui. We did 6 games in 3 days. So on the last day, we did the semifinal and the final. Went right to the airport and hopped on like a 10 p.m. flight or whatever, nonstop to Portland. Got to Portland at 6 or 7 in the morning Portland time, and did games at 12 and 2:30 that afternoon in Portland. And that's about and it was an adventure. You just kind of make it fun, right? Because it is what it is. But to do 2 games, go to an airport, fly 5-6 hours, sleep for 2, shave, iron your shirt, go to the gym and do 2 more games. I wouldn't want to do it all the time, but that one time it was, it was fun and it was unique. But, behind the scenes, there are things that people don't see. But again, I know a lot of my buddies who would trade places with me, and I'm not sure I would trade places with any of them.
Right. No, that's a great point. We've all kind of had some of those times where it is like a mad rush, and you're just hoping that there's no delays, and you get where you need to get. And then not even that preparation. We know how much you put into it, how much I put into it, how much everybody in our industry puts into getting ready for games. So that's got to be done ahead of time. People think you just got to show up. No, that's not how it works.
Right. Absolutely. So and I don't have as many of the back-to-backs anymore, but when I did the NBA in college, I would often have, say, like a Friday night NBA, a Saturday night college, and a Sunday night NBA. So I could be like in OKC Friday night, at Duke Saturday, and in Denver Sunday or something like that. So you come home the previous weekend, and I've got to say to my family, okay, well, I got to watch the Nuggets play, and I got to watch the Thunder play, and I tape all these games. And you try to do as much as you can when the kids are at school or at night when everybody's asleep or something. And then you get really good at working on airplanes too. So, everybody says to me, why don't you watch movies on airplanes? And I'm like, dude, there are only 2 things I do on airplanes. I work and I sleep. That's it. Those are the only 2 things I know how to do on an airplane. But
yeah, me too.
Yeah, but I enjoy the preparation, which makes it nice. It's not like I dread turning on my computer, opening up my notebook, getting the info. I enjoy the preparation for the games too.
Yeah. No, and I do the same thing. So every time I get on a plane, I know I'm like, this is great. I got whatever this flight takes to get there, this much time to get some work done. I don't mind. I don't mind how long the flight is at all. I'm like, good? I'm glad it's 5 hours. I got a lot of stuff to do, and that flight goes by like a minutes to me, and I'm sure it would for you. And one time, then I'm actually going on vacation with my wife, so we're on the plane, and inevitably, because I've got games coming up when we get back or whatever, I pull on my laptop, I start doing some work, and she was a little taken back at first, like, well, did you want to talk? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I was so used to just like doing work. I was like, oh my God, I'm being so rude. I'm like, she just wants to like hang out and whatever. And I'm like, I got to get this work done. But it was funny.
Yeah, we're like, traveling just becomes so second nature. And the other thing about it too, because we're on our own so much, at the airport, on the plane, in the rental car, at the hotel, whatever. And I think one thing a lot of us do without meaning to do it or even really realizing we're doing it is like we've all got our schedule and our routine. And because so much of our time is on our own, like we need that routine. And again, it's one of those things you don't even realize. You wake up one morning after you've been doing this for 15 or 20 years and you go, oh, this is what I have. I have to wake up at this time. I have to go get the paper. I have to go get the coffee. I have to check this. I have to check that. And I have to, and whatever you have to do. And so even when you're pleasure traveling with your loved ones, you're still kind of in that, hey, this is how I do it kind of mode, which is not fair to everybody else. So you got to, we all got to learn to dial it back when we're back in civilian life.
Right. And the same thing, right? It's like I'm taking, she's with me, we're packing up the bags. I gotta, no, you gotta have this. We can't put this underneath, or this can't go through the radar, And I was so proud because she knows I'm the one that travels, and I got this down to a science. And then I had like a rookie mistake where I left one of our water bottles or something in my bag, and the belt, excuse me, sir. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm like, I know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. My wife will take the suitcase out 1 or 2 days before we're going to travel and just kind of leave it open, and bit by bit stuff starts coming out of drawers and it sits in piles around the suitcase on the floor. And I'm like, just tell me minutes before you have to leave and I'll pack. Cause that's, because we've packed a million times. So, and for her, it's like it causes paralysis. I mean, she's got to think through everything. And I'm like, can't help you. I do it differently. You're on your own here.
Right. I mean, I now I have a list actually that I just kind of fire through, that I just check everything off and I throw it in the bags. So I know I don't forget anything. So I never forget anything anymore. I pack it up. But a lot of times it's kind of last minute per se, getting ready to get to the next game or get to the airport. And it's funny that you say that because they're all excited. They're getting ready for the trip. My mom and dad will do the same thing. They'll have their stuff out for a week. They know I got a game in a week. They're like, "Are you packed yet?" I'm like, no. Like I got 5 more days. I'm like, I don't have that kind of time to do that right now. But it's so funny.
I should have a list because I cannot count how many times I've had to go and buy, whether it's razor blades, whether it's a charging cord, whether it's underwear. I mean, sometimes you pack fast and you forget. And the worst thing is getting to the hotel and say it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night and you've got a Sunday game and you are missing a necessary item. And small town Midwest Saturday night at 10 o'clock and you are just SOL. It's good.
No, I'm gonna email this to you when we get done. My my list. You create it and make it your own. Seriously, I'll email this to you. It's like what I was doing for years. Yeah, I'm like, and just look at it. It has like what goes in what bag, what goes in my travel bag, what's in my carry-on bag. I mean, I don't know why I hadn't done this for the longest time, but it's really been the last like 3 years. So I never forget anything again. And I've even got it down to what I need to do around the house before I leave, like take out the trash, feed the cat real quick, and then it's like. Nice. Great, yeah. So I'll
the life is not quite as glamorous as your podcast listeners might think it is. So and there are some great parts. Again, you walk into a game at Kansas or Duke or Yankee Stadium or Dodger Stadium or whatever, and it's amazing. But behind the scenes, we're just confused, scrambling around people just like everybody else. We're just trying to figure it out just like everybody else.
Join our friends from the Delaware Kids Fund and Harvey Hanna and Associates for the 10th Annual Delaware Kids Fund 5K in Newport, Delaware on Saturday, August 3rd to help fight childhood hunger. To register and for full info, visit dekidsfund.org.
For the games, when I've been watching you for so many years now, and it is, you obviously been able to get some of the greatest games and the greatest venues. And I don't know, I was wondering, do you know how many times you've been at Duke, like or North Carolina for that matter? But I always feel like I associate you with Duke. You know what I mean? Like how many times have you been at a game at Cameron? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know how many times I've been at Cameron. I do know roughly how many Duke Carolina games I've done because this year I got curious about that and I wanted to figure it out. And I think I've done 21 or 22 Duke Carolina games, but how many times I've been at each place? So I've been doing college basketball for 24 years for ESPN. I would guess I've been to Carolina 30 times, and I would guess I've been to Duke 40 to 50 times, maybe a little.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it seems like we're there every week. We're not there every week, but if I go to Duke twice a year, I would guess, like sometimes I have them on the road, or sometimes I have them in Maui or at Madison Square Garden or in the Champions, or they're on the road at the ACC Big Ten or something like that. So I don't know how many of them would actually be home. I do know this year, I think I did 12 Duke games, which I know is the most I ever did. Now that includes 3 in Maui, 3 at the ACC tournament. Then there was the Champions, so that's 7 right off the bat. Home and home with Carolina, so that's 9.
Yeah.
I know I did Boston College at Duke. I can't remember the other one. So, but I did 12 games, and I think we did both Virginia games. So I know I did 12, and I think 3 of them were actually at Cameron. And I know Duke was polarizing. I know some people love them. I know some people hate them. But if you're just a sports fan, and I never care who wins. Contrary to what some people may think, we national announcers, we don't have. I'm speaking for myself. There's no agenda. I just want a good game. I don't care who wins. But I know when you do a game, just like you said, when you do a team a lot, you kind of get associated with that team. But again, love them or hate them, as some people do, it is really cool to do a game at Cameron because it's a really cool place. And it's not the only cool place. Kansas is cool. Kentucky is cool. Michigan State's cool. There are a lot of great places around the country. But to do a game at Cameron, and I'm starting to get to the age now where, I'm probably closer to the finish line than I am to the start. And I'm starting to get, a little more cognizant of how lucky I've been and enjoy things a little bit more.
No doubt. Those are fun places. I was able to get there as a fan to watch a game probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. I think it was, I was doing Delaware radio at the time. So our coach was David Henderson, former Blue Devil. So,
right.
When we're doing a game in like UNC Wilmington or something like that, and I said, to my partner, Bill, I go, you know what? I go, let's hang out and go to Duke and watch a game after we do our game on Saturday. They got a game on Sunday. I think they're playing like Clemson. Like let's ask coach to see if he can get us tickets, to go to the Duke game. I'm like, we've never been there. Everybody wants to go there. Let's do that. He's like, okay, cool. So I asked coach, I said, hey, is there possible for you to, maybe get us a couple tickets for this, Duke game after we go do your game at UNCW? He's like, yeah, I'll call my guy. Okay. And I got a couple weeks going by, and I didn't hear anything, and I was kind of like, I'm like, yeah, man, I should ask coach. And I'm like, hey, I just, was wondering. He's like, I don't know. He said he hadn't heard back or whatever, and I was like, this stinks. So like another week goes by, or whatever, and he comes back up to me. He goes, hey, Mike. I was like, yeah. He's like, you and I were cool with what we talked about. I'm like, what do we talk about? He's like, the tickets, man, the tickets. You're all set. I'm like, oh, cool, for Duke. He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, great. Thanks so much. So like we got to the game. And, you know what it's like. It's like it looks like an academic building. I mean, it doesn't even look like it's in an arena, right? I mean, you don't even know.
You could walk right by it and not even know it's an arena.
Yeah, you can walk right by it. And there's like a little shack at the time that was out there for the booth for the tickets. And I go up and I'm like, yeah, Mike Corey had, 2 tickets. And they're like, looking there. And I'm like, yeah, Corey. They're like, no, I don't see any tickets. I'm like, oh, come on. I'm like, our coach, he sent the tickets. And I'm like, and they're like, it was under like K. It was like KOURHEY. I'm like, yeah, that's me, Mike Corey. Yeah. So like, we got the tickets. I'm like, but it was so fun. I mean, it's like 6 rows behind the bench. And I mean, when you see that team and the organization, and you can attest to this more than anybody else, it's like clockwork, right? I mean, they got like managers just making sure people aren't taking pictures. Manager pick up one towel. Manager takes the cup of water. I mean, it's nuts. Yeah. Like, really imagine.
It's like a pro operation. It's half a pro operation and half it feels like the military. Everything is done. It's a science. It's done to the second. The fastest people I've ever seen are the Duke managers running off at halftime to get into the locker room and do whatever they need to do in the 30 seconds before the coaches and players come into the locker room. But, listen, they've earned it. They've been a phenomenal college program for as long as I've been doing it, and really started back in the mid to late 80s, obviously, and 5 national championships for Coach K since then, ranked number 1 at some point almost every season. And, this past year, with Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett, I mean, it just was a whole other level. It was like following the Beatles on tour. It was just crazy. And we go to Virginia and LeBron is there. Like, I never saw LeBron. I think I saw LeBron at one other college game I've done. I think he showed up at a Kentucky game I did once many years ago. But, like when LeBron's coming to the game, it's big. Something's going on. We do a game at Duke later in the season. President Obama's there. Like, this is big stuff. And it was really cool. And again, I'm at that pinching myself age when I walk in there and, when we get to go see practice the day before the game, and Coach K comes over and gives us a few minutes. And the first time you walk into a gym and see Zion in person or something like that, it's pretty cool. And, I started off doing, games of teams that you never saw on TV, right? Like, we all had to start somewhere. And I put just as much effort into that East Tennessee State game that I did back in 1990, whatever, as I do into a Duke Carolina game, because whoever's watching is watching for a reason, and I want to give them my best. And that's why I always try to prepare as hard as I can. But I'd be lying if I said you didn't get a little bit extra excited if whatever game you're doing happens to be a really big, important game. And again, I've been really lucky. So I've been lucky to do some in a couple of different sports, and it's fun to share. Two of my boys are big sports fans as well, so to share it with them is also fun.
Yeah, no, and let me get this right. So you got Ben, Matthew, and Alex, correct? Right?
I have Matthew, Alex, Ben, and I'm actually recently remarried, and I have a little baby as well. I'm an old dad. I'm a new dad again. I'm an old new dad, or a new old dad, however you want to say it. So I have 3 older children and 1 young baby boy as well. So we're doing all we can to make sure he gets the sports bug.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah, I have a 7-month-old daughter now, and life certainly changes, and but for the better. And we're thrilled, and it's but boy, the one thing I didn't realize was the first 3 months and how difficult that was. I had no idea. I mean,
we're just coming out of it now, and and I've been through it before in my first marriage with my 3 older boys, so I've been through it, but. My little guy is 3.5 months, so we're just coming out of it right now. But it's one of those things that you look back on it and say, "Oh, it wasn't so bad," but in the moment, it's hard. Yeah. And that's one of the things too. You want to get your sleep because you got to, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all part of life, right? Everybody's got something, and it's this little guy's a blessing, and he's wonderful, and the Raptor game, Game 6 of the as you and I speak, we are just hours away from Game 6 of the NBA Finals. But unfortunately for the little guy, the game is well past his bedtime. But I'll tell him about it in the morning.
That's great. What's his name?
His name is Hudson.
Hudson. That's great. That's awesome. Hey, congrats again with that.
Thank you.
I hope it well. And when you. Yeah, that's the thing. Now you've got the 4 boys, so where are they at? Are they huge sports fans? Is everybody a huge sports fan, or what's their situation like?
Number 1 and number 3 are huge sports fans. Number 2 is a non-sports fan, totally. Okay. And number 2 is all in. He's a computer kid, computer science graduate. He's a programmer, a coder, and sports are just not his thing. And I don't think he would know, Zion Williamson from Tom Brady, from Sidney Crosby, from Mike Trout to save his life. So it's just not his thing, but that's great. He's got his thing, and that's terrific. Number 1 and number 3 are big time sports fans, mostly Toronto sports, Maple Leafs, Raptors, Blue Jays. And number 3, Ben, he's also, and for better or for worse, he got this from me. He's a Green Bay Packers fan. We've made the pilgrimage to Lambeau 3 times to see games, which has been great. And he wants to get into the business. He's studying broadcasting right now in college, and he'd like to get into sports broadcasting if he could. And I think he's got a pretty good shot. He's doing pretty well.
There you go. That's awesome. That's a great path. Yeah. Well, and so let me, in terms of that, and then the games you've done and the people you've worked with, I'm sure everybody would love to hear. And I remember this one time watching you with him, with Dick Vitale. I mean, I can't even imagine the kind of, I don't know, like what you have to do differently per se as a play-by-play guy when you work with somebody like Dick. I mean, I watched one game and, you guys came on camera and he was just like going crazy. You literally looked at him and then you look back at the camera. It's like, you have no idea. To the fans, exactly. I'm like, I don't think we do. I mean, what is it like, working with him?
He is exactly what you think it would be like. He's wonderful. He's been great to me and to my family over the years. And I work more with Jay now and less with Dick. I worked primarily with Dick for, 11, 12, 13 years, something like that. And I loved it. But I know there were those moments, and sometimes I didn't need to say anything. Like you said, we would come on camera, and all I had to do was look at the camera, and it was if I was saying to America, now you understand. And I knew that people understood. So, but he's great. And I think the reason he and I get along very well for so many reasons. But I always said, you know what, I get who's two of us. I get the roles. And I let him go. But if I ever tried to reel him in, because I didn't do it that often, he would respond instantly. It's funny, like we would sit there, and I was always on the left, he was always on the right. If I just put my hand like on his elbow or something like that, it was like a switch. He would stop talking. It was amazing because I didn't do it that often. So, but we had a great time. And the best stuff is the stuff behind the scenes that people don't see. That's the real funny stuff. Which is Dick navigating his way through a day being Dickie V, because being Dickie V is a full-time job. And from the moment, the plane lands and he gets into the city and he bumps into people and he wants to have lunch somewhere, and then before the game and the students with the band and going to see the coach, and like it's a reality show. It really is. If you could put a camera on him and do a behind the scenes thing, it would be good TV.
Safe to say he's probably a little late for some of the graphic, viewing and rehearsals and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. He leaves most of that in my hands, and I'm okay with that arrangement. And it's funny because sometimes we would work with a producer, especially in more recent years. Generally it was our real guys who knew him and guys he knew. Those were the same 3 or 4 producers would be assigned to him. But inevitably over the years, sometimes you get somebody newer, somebody younger. And I would get a phone call like 4 or 5 days before, and it would be like, Dan, you got to help me here. How do I do this? What does he need? And I would say, okay, here's what he needs. Here's what he wants. And this kind of stuff, don't even bug him with it. Like, it's not worth it. Work through me, tell me, whatever. And we would work it out that way. So, but he's great. He's, generous with his time. The work he does for the V Foundation, obviously, is mind-boggling. How many millions of dollars he's raised, and listen, the guy's 80 years old. He just turned 80, and he's still got passion and energy. It's really remarkable.
Okay, and then how about now with Billis? I know he's just kind of the master of college basketball, knows everything. Really, what's the differences? I'm sure amazing amount, but working with a guy like him.
Yeah, well, they're 2 totally different guys, but I love working with both of them. Jay, if the sport were to have a commissioner, Jay would be the guy I would nominate. I think he's got, obviously he knows the issues inside and out. His memory is remarkable, played the game at a high level, can analyze the game. He can put into it, and to work with Dick for many years, to work with Jay now for several years is fantastic. They're both terrific, and they have both been great ambassadors for college basketball.
Awesome. Well, hey, Dan, I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you, and I know you're a busy guy. Still got a lot going on these days, but congratulations on the little one and the rest of your family, and hope everything goes well. And have a great summer, and hopefully we'll run across each other down the road real soon.
All right, Mike, I appreciate it. Thanks. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another episode. And you can follow Mike's travels all year long on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on the web at Mike Corey Sports.